This game was played between Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces against Sergey Karjakin as black. And this game won Magnus Carlsen the World Championships. He only needed a draw to win this game, and he won the game by forcing resignation. And we open with e4, c5, knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes on d4, knight takes on d4, so we have the Sicilian defense open variation on the board. Knight to f6, and we have f3, so the prince variation. e5, knight to b3, bishop to e7, c4, a5, bishop to e3, and we have a4, so pushing forwards with this pawn. Now we have knight to c1, a kingside castles, and knight to c3, queen to a5, queen to d2, so getting out of the pin from knight, and we have knight to a6, bishop to e2, knight to c5, so improving the position of the knight. Now we have castles on the king side, and we have bishop to d7, rook to b1, and rook f to c8, b4, so forking the knight and the queen, but now the only option from here is a takes on b3, so en passant. So we have a takes on b3, a takes on b3, and queen back to d8. Now from here we have knight to d3, and knight to e6, so moving the position of the knight, knight to b4, and bishop to c6. From here we have rook to d1, rook f to d1, and h5. Bishop to f1, and we have h4. So, pushing forwards. We have queen to f2, so giving ideas of bishop to b6, attacking the queen, align with this queen on f2, so both on the dark squares. Now we have knight to d7, so now the bishop can't come to this b6 square. g3, and we have rook to a3, so attacking this pawn. And we have bishop to h3. Rook c to a8, so now both the rooks are on the a file. And knight to c2. Rook 3 to a6, and knight to b4, so double attacking the rook and the bishop. But Magnus isn't worried about taking this bishop. We have rook to a5, and knight to c2. b6, and rook to d2. Queen to c7, and rook b to d1. Bishop to f8, and g captures on h4. He's not worried about doubling up because he can push these pawns forward and attack the king side. Now we have knight to f4 from Karjakin, and bishop takes on f4. So in this position he only needs a draw, so he can trade off as many pieces as possible. Now Karjakin plays e captures on f4. Bishop takes on d7, and queen takes d7, and knight to b4. So he has a good position for his knight attacking the bishop. But now we have rook to a3. Knight takes on c6, queen takes on c6, and we have knight to b5. The point is he's allowing this pawn to be captured by the rook for a good reason, which Karjakin played. Rook captures on b3, but now he goes for the stunning move. Knight d4. So the point is he's double attacking the queen, and this rook is being under attack. So queen takes on c4, so the exchange was given up, and knight captured on b3, queen takes on b3, and queen to e2. We have bishop to e7, and we have king to g2. We have queen to e6, and now we have h5. And the move played from here is rook to a4. Or you could play rook to a3, which was played in the game. So rook to a4 is not as good. Rook to a3 was actually played, so cutting off the third rank. We have rook to d3, so asking for a trade. And we have rook to a2, so hitting the queen. We have rook 3 to d2, so repeating moves. Rook back to a3, and rook to d3. So he's not worried about a draw because that's only what he needs. Now we have rook to a7, and we have knight to d5. Rook to c7. So we have the move let's go back. So when we had rook to c7, we have queen to d2, queen to f6, and rook to f5, attacking the queen. Queen moves down to h4, sorry. Now from here we have we have rook to c1, rook to a7, declining the trade, and rook captures. Sorry, queen takes on f4. So now Magnus forces the trade, queens, but Karjakin declines with the move rook to a2 with check. Now we have king to h1, and now we have queen to f2. The point is, what happens if the king moves to g1? Well, checkmate is forced. This is with queen to f2 with check, and the king has to move to the h1 square, and this checkmate like this. So, he is forced to play the move queen to f2, and now the action begins. After rook to c8 with check, he didn't notice, but after king to h7, he resigned in this position. Because this is a wonderful idea. If king takes, rook to h8 is checkmate. And what happens if g captures on h6? Well, checkmate with the other rook. Rook takes on f7 is checkmate. So that's checkmate. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video on Magnus Carlsen winning the World Championships against Sergey Karjakin. Please remember to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you soon.